It's a place you never want to end up, but every year more than 2,500 people come through the doors of the UAMS Trauma Center.
This is the only adult level 1 trauma unit in the state of Arkansas, so we wanted to get a look behind the curtain, and in fact only THV 11 was allowed to film inside.
Our Laura Monteverde shows you what it's really like in the place where saving lives is a race against time.
The importance of trauma centers came to light after several mass shootings in the past year. They're credited for saving lives. Photojournalist Bree Conyers and I spent more than 20 hours inside the trauma unit to get a behind-the-scenes look. We work with the hospital to get permission from every patient to be able to show you what it's really like.
As the sun sets on the city of Little Rock, the night is just beginning inside the trauma unit at UAMS Medical Center.
AirEvac, do you copy?
Just after 9:30, the first call of the night comes in. A woman badly injured in a car accident in El Dorado. Her injuries so severe, she had to be flown into the state's only adult level 1 trauma center. The patient arrives and the trauma team moves quickly, working against the clock to stabilize the patient, making sure she has no internal bleeding.
Get a unit of packed cells and a unit of fresh frozen.
In total, about a dozen people surround the patient, each with a specific job. To us, a chaotic scene. To the men and women behind the curtain, organized chaos.
My job in those moments is to make sure that the team understands what their roles are. Everybody in that room, even though it looks like chaos, has a task they're trying to accomplish.
Dr. Ron Robertson is at the helm. He's the medical director of trauma at UAMS, one of 9 trauma surgeons who make up the team.
You can have nights where it's quiet and you don't have anything, and then you have nights where it's just one after another.
For the past 21 years, this has been his second home. From falls to car crashes to gunshot wounds, he's seen it all.
You never know what you're gonna deal with.
With 3 trauma bays, the team can handle just about everything, including 2 patients back to back.
This is UAMS. Go ahead with the report, please.
As the team continues to stabilize the first patient, another patient arrives via med flight from Texarkana.
We're going to listen to breath sounds, assess, and then we'll move, and then we'll hear the report, okay?
This time, a 75-year-old man with a massive head injury from a car accident.
Any report of any major blood loss anywhere?
The clock starts and work to stabilize the patient begins.
We have a digital clock on the wall that's hit when the patient arrives, and that's because the team can get so focused on what's going on that they lose time. And so that's a hallmark that they can go to, and they can look at the clock and see, we've been in 5 minutes, what have we gotten accomplished?
On this night, a double success.
Yeah, C-spine.
Both patients in critical condition but stable, sent to the ICU to spend the night. This a more quiet night than most, Dr. Robertson says, but a night that is only just begun.
I've got several hours to go, so that may change.
Again, we work with UAMS to get permission from every patient seen in this story. This was a big undertaking and required a lot of trust from all parties. Tomorrow on THV 11 this morning, part 2 of our Treating Trauma series. We delve into what it takes for a hospital to receive a level 1 designation and the amazing work being done by hospitals around the state to save lives.
In 2005, Arkansas ranked the worst in the nation for quick access to a trauma center. That's for people needing emergency treatment. In fact, in 2009, Arkansas was one of only 3 states without a fully functioning trauma system.
But fast forward to 2018, and that has changed dramatically. Thanks to the new system, some patients are surviving injuries that would have killed them less than a decade ago. Laura Monteverde shows us more.
Tonight, we continue our Treating Trauma series, taking you back inside the state's only adult level 1 trauma center to give you a closer look at how our state's trauma system is working to save lives like never before.
It's a Tuesday evening in January inside the trauma unit of UAMS Medical Center. Just after 5 p.m., the call comes in. A Little Rock police officer injured in a multi-car pileup while on his motorcycle. A possible head injury sends him straight to the state's only level 1 trauma center. It's these types of scenarios the trauma team at UAMS is prepared for. The only adult trauma center in the state able to provide the highest level of trauma care.
It's such a blessing. I mean, we wake up every day and our legacy is saving lives, and not many people can say that.
According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, getting to a level 1 trauma center can lower the risk of death by 25% for patients with severe injuries.
I think most people think that they're close, within 5 or 6 minutes, to a level 1 trauma center. And I think they'd be surprised to know that they're really not.
With specialized surgeons on duty at all times, they can treat the most serious and urgent cases.
For us, that means we keep somebody here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The other hospitals that are level 2s, their surgeons don't have to stay in-house. They have typically a 30-minute response time.
Dr. Ron Robertson, medical director of trauma at UAMS, says having a level 1 designation in the state can mean the difference between life and death in the event of a tragedy like a mass shooting.
I have an operating room that sits open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just waiting for those patients to come in. And, you know, this is the one place that we can get a patient to the operating room within 10 minutes or so if they do need our services.
Or tragedies like a plane crash. Terry Collins was on duty in June of 1999 when American Airlines Flight 1420 crashed at the Clinton National Airport.
What went through my mind on that night was, how can we handle this many patients, over 100 patients? Should we get them all? We're the closest hospital to the airport. And how can we be the most effective and efficient and make a difference in these folks' lives?
Which is exactly what UAMS is doing every day. The hospital took a lead role in 2011 when the statewide trauma system began operation.
Before the system, it took a long time for patients to get accepted at trauma centers, sometimes several hours before they could find an accepting hospital. What often happened is they'd land in a hospital, they'd identify an injury they couldn't take care of, they'd end up transferring it to another hospital, they'd find something they couldn't manage, and so patients often went to 2 or 3 hospitals before they ever got to definitive care. And the problem with that is that impacts mortality.
In the past, there could be a 6 to 8 hour delay in getting a trauma patient to the appropriate hospital. But thanks to the trauma system, made up of nearly 70 hospitals in Arkansas and the surrounding states, that time is down to just 7 minutes.
Patients are living that never would have lived before we had these resources and this capability.
And it's these resources and a team of dedicated doctors that allow patients like Officer David Phillips to make a full recovery.
We know that we can save lives, and we know that if the patients make it to us, most likely they're going to make it home.
There's also a trauma image repository of CT scans. A hospital receiving a patient can pull those images before the patient even arrives. It prevents people from having radiation exposure twice and gives doctors a better idea of what they're dealing with.
Laura, thank you. And coming up tomorrow at 5, Laura shares the incredible story of an Arkansas surgeon whose life was saved by the very trauma system he helped create. From a behind-the-scenes look inside the state's only adult level 1 trauma center to the story behind its creation. Over the past few days, we've shared with you stories about the incredible men and women who work to save lives every single day in our state.
Tonight, as we wrap up our Treating Trauma series, Laura Monteverde shares the story of a surgeon whose life was saved by the very trauma system he helped create.
It was the night of September 1st, 2017. Trauma surgeon Dr. Todd Maxson was taking a break after a long day of surgery at Arkansas Children's Hospital.
I was coming home for a bit, and I was on a motorcycle, helmeted, with my protective gear on, and was struck by a car.
Maxson was thrown from his bike, breaking his helmet. The car dragged his motorcycle nearly 150 feet.
At the scene, I knew my injuries were significant.
2 bystanders saw the crash and rushed to help. One of them called 911. Maxson asked the other to call Children's.
I remember thinking, here's what must be done. I must get a hold of the hospital. I must let them know we need backup.
Even with life-threatening injuries, including a broken pelvis, shattered femur, and several broken bones. Maxon was able to tell paramedics to take him to UAMS, the state's only adult level 1 trauma center.
The ability to take an emergency, none of that was scheduled, obviously. Long operations, the pelvic operation exceeded almost 12 hours alone. And to be able to get space in an operating room and have the people trained, the specialists trained to do that work and the space to do it is something that you just don't get at a hospital that's not a trauma center.
What's the address of the emergency?
From the 911 call center to the paramedics at the scene,
Ever hypotensive?
to the trauma team at the hospital, Maxon credits the state's trauma system.
The fact that they were able to do these so quickly and so efficiently I also credit with saving my life and being back to the level that I am today.
5 months later, Maxon is home recovering. He's able to walk around with the use of a walker and is back to work part-time. His commitment to doing what he does every single day, stronger than ever before.
I have this feeling that so many people did so much for me that my job is to work as hard as I possibly can daily to get back to where I can serve them again.